This is the second part of my Chronicle of a Mini. One of the reasons why I do my scrapbooking in phases is because I rarely have big blocks of time to do my scrapbooking. And sometimes when I have time to scrapbook, my creative mojo isn't always on track. So when I feel creative, then I can better easily handle some of the creative parts of making an album, as opposed to some of the more mundane things that you do when you create an album. So this is the creation phase. I have all of my pages ready, and I go with the biggest elements first on a page, and I save all of my envelopes that my embellishments and so forth come in, and I take all of the elements that I'm going to put on a page and I put them in one of these and affiliate it with the page where I'm going to be using it. So this is the back page of this particular mini, and I've chosen some fibers for this page, and so I place the fibers down. I've decided that I'm going to add some cutouts from some of the papers that match, and so I've done the cutouts for the pages that I'm going to use, and I'm going to put use Versamark and use some pop-ups on this so that this is raised a little bit. I decided I was going to put a little bit of this is fabulous on here. I've got this particular, I've already cut this, and I've got the I've put it on my mounting sheet, and so that's basically what that page is going to look like. Then the side pages, I always take corners of envelopes, and these are the envelopes that I get, return envelopes for offers that I'm not interested in, that sort of thing. And that's how I make my corners. I'm going to be distressing the edges, and then I put my designer paper on the corner of that so that when you slip your tag in there, you can slip it all the way to the corner. And this is the part that I'm going to be gluing on the page. So I'm going to put this down here. These particular Prima flowers, I'm going to be using Velma's technique on those flowers. I'm going to use a little bit of my homemade glimmer mist, maybe use some of my homemade shimmers. That leaf will go in there, and then I'm going to pick up some of the colors in this particular embellishment, and on this side I'll be putting this. Again, this is the corner of an envelope, one of those return envelopes that you get, and that's going to go in the corner. And I'm going to put that leaf there. Again, I'm going to use Velma's technique on these flowers. I'm going to pick up some of the colors, and I'll be putting those flowers on that. Now, I decided that that's basically how I'm going to do that page, and I'm going to put all of these elements in this envelope. So when I'm ready to do a page, no matter how much time I have or how little time I have, I know that I can do the embossing, or I can do the corners, or I can do whatever I have time to do. But all of these elements then are associated with these pages. And again, I started with the back of the book simply because it's going to be easier for me to show everybody what I do. I know that I'm going to be putting some tags on these pages, and the tags I always make last. After I have the composition of all the pages, I've got the pages all done. This, again, is the same way I do the tags. These two tags are going to be associated with these pages. I used my Nestabilities and my new Big Kick to design the top of these tags. The way I did this, I decided on how wide I wanted it, cut my paper a little wider, put it in my Big Kick with my Nestabilities, and only took it down so far. I didn't take it all the way down, so I didn't get a complete cut. And that way I got this really neat cut on the top of this tag. I cut this out of some cardboard, and then of course these are my pieces of designer paper that I'm going to use on either side. And again, I just took my Big Kick and I went down so far. After that, I took them out, and then I trimmed them up to be the size I wanted. And these are the elements that I'm going to be adding to this particular tag. I know that I'll be distressing the edges. I'll probably do clear embossing on this particular page. On the other side, I'll probably do some journaling. Again, here's a corner of an envelope that I'm going to be using. And this is the paper for the top of that. I'm going to be adding these Prima flowers. This flower I've already dyed. I'll be using Velma's technique on that. And so this will go on the corner of this particular tag. And again, I know that these tags are going to match these pages, and so I associate them all together and I put them in my little envelope, my little clear plastic envelope. And anytime I get embellishments or anything of that nature, I go ahead and put all of these things together, and then I keep them associated with the pages where they're going to go. The last thing I do to pages usually is add my charms, my little elements that are not hard to place, because I think if you place your big elements first, sometimes there are just things I have to have on a page, I think, and I place those first. So I come along then and I close this page up just as though it were going to close in the book. I've added my lace. This is what I'm going to be using on this particular page. I'm going to use a stamp. I'm going to use this particular stamp, and I'm going to put these two pages together, and I'm going to stamp this here. Emboss it. I'm probably going to do some of the shadowing techniques on this page. Here are the components, again, to these two pages. I've got my fibers, I've got my feathers. I'll probably be doing some clear embossing on the little vintage pictures that I have on that. So again, I will close my page, and these will be the elements that I'm going to be using on that page. I kind of fasten under here. Again, on the inside of this, I have the elements that I'm going to be using on this page, Marion pocket page. And I close this up. And with each page, I've got the elements that I'm going to use. Generally, as I'm putting the pages together, I decide whether I'm going to use glimmers or shimmer mist or whatever. That happens as I'm putting these pages together. So with each page, I again add my little packet of elements that I'm going to put on that page. So when I sit down to actually scrap, then I've got my elements associated with my pages, and it's much easier for me to actually put the pages together and not have huge blocks of time to do it. And I keep my elements with my pages again. Each of them comes in the bag. I really like doing pages this way. The elements that I thought I was going to use sometimes work, sometimes they don't. The front of this book turned out to be a little bit of a challenge because of the closure that I wanted to use. And the closure that I wanted to use was this magnetic closure. And it's a buckle magnetic closure like this. In order to work, the buckle has to be free from this area to this area. Obviously, you would use ribbon for that. So I will be taking the ribbon, I will be threading the ribbon through this so it will stay on and bring it to the back. And I'll do all that before I put the paper onto the designer or onto the chipboard. I needed the ribbon to be sturdier, so I decided that I would use these square brads as a design element on this page and put it over the top of the ribbon. Now my latch is still going to be free from this point on, so I'll be able to open and close it. So I'll have these elements as a design element. I'm going to have this key, and this says moments this on there, and this is a fragment, and I've used my crystal effects. I've attached a little vintage look to it, and here are some charms, and I'll be placing that in this area on the book. So I always do my first page last, depending on how the inside of the book comes together. So I'm going to get started and actually make the pages. I will be doing some vids on some of the things, like when I do this particular stamp, how I'm going to stamp it and emboss it, and then I'm going to do the distressing. And I hope you find that to be useful. So thank you for watching my video. I'll catch you later.